Om Sairam, chapter number 24. Baba's wit and humor, Chan Leela, Hemant Pant Sudama, Anna Chinchalkar versus Moshibai. Preliminary. Unless we surrender our ego to the feet of our Sadguru, we will not succeed in our undertaking. It will become egoless, then our success is assured. By worshipping Sai Baba, we attain both the objects, worldly and spiritual, and are fixed in our true nature and get peace and happiness. Therefore, those who want to accomplish or gain their welfare should respectfully hear Sai Baba's Leelas and stories and meditate on them. If they do this, they will easily attain the object of their goal and get bliss. Generally, all people like wit and humor, but they do not like the jokes should be cut at their expense. But Baba's method was peculiar. When it was accompanied with good gestures, it was very interesting and instructive, and the people therefore did not mind, even if they were held up to the ridicule. Hemant Pant gives his own instance below, that is, Chana Leela. In Shirdi, a special bazaar was held every Sunday, and people from neighboring villages came there, erected booths and stalls in the open street, and sold their wares and commodities. Every noon the masjid was crowded, but on Sunday it was crowded to suffocation. On one such Sunday, Hemant Pant sat in front of Baba, shampooing his legs and muttering God's name. Shama was on Baba's left, Vaman Rao to his right. Shriman Bhuti and Kaka Sahib Dikshit and others were also present there. Then Shama laughed and said to Anna Sahib, "See that some grains seem to have stuck to the sleeves of your coat?" So saying, he touched the sleeve and found that there were some grains. Hemant Pant straightened his left forearm to see what matter was, and to the surprise of all, some grains of gram came rolling down and were picked up by people who were sitting there. This incident furnished a subject matter for joke. Everybody present began to wonder and said something or the other as to how the grains found their way into the sleeve of the coat and lodged there so long. Hemant Pant also could not guess. When nobody could give a satisfactory explanation in this matter, and everybody was wondering about their mystery, Baba said as follows: "This fellow Anna Sahib has got that bad habit of eating alone. Today is the bazaar day and he came here chewing grams. I know his habit and these grams are proof of it. What wonder is there in this matter?" Hemant Pant: "Baba, I never know of eating things alone. Then why do you shoulder this bad habit on me? I have never yet seen Shirdi Bazaar. I never went to the bazaar today. Then how could I buy grams and how could I eat them if I had not bought them? I never eat anything unless I share it with others present around me at the time of my meals. Baba, is it true that you give it to the persons present, but if none was nearby, what could you do or I do? But do you remember me before eating? Am I not always with you? Then do you offer me anything before you eat?" Let us now see what was the moral of the story. The moral of the story, according to Hemant Pant Chana Leela, let us mark and note carefully what Baba has taught us by this incident. He has advised us that before the senses, mind and intellect enjoy their objects, first he should be remembered, and if this be done, it is in a way by making an offering to him. The senses, etc., can never remain without their objects, but if those objects are first offered to the Guru, the attachment for them will naturally vanish. In this way, all the vrittas, that is, subtle thoughts, regarding desire, anger, avarice, etc., should first be offered and directed to the Guru, and if this practice be followed, the Lord will help us in eradicating all the vrittis. When, before enjoyment of the object, you think that Baba is present, the question whether the object is fit to be enjoyed or not will at once arise. Then the object that is not fit to be enjoyed will be shunned, and in this way our vicious habits or vices will disappear and our character will improve. Then love for the Guru will grow and pure knowledge will sprout up. When the knowledge grows, the bondage of body conscious, that is, we are the body, will snap and our intellect will be merged in spirit consciousness, that is, we are the spirit. Then we shall get bliss and contentment. There is no difference between Guru and God. He who sees any differences in them finds God nowhere. So, leaving aside all the ideas of difference, we should regard Guru and God as one, and we serve our Guru as stated above. God will be certainly pleased, and by purifying our minds, it will give us self-realization. To put the matter in a nutshell, we should not enjoy any object with our senses, etc., without first remembering our Guru. When the mind is trained in this way, we will be always reminded of Baba, and our meditation on Baba will grow apace. The Shagun form of Baba will ever be there before our eyes, and then devotion, non-attachment and salvation will be ours. When Baba's form is thus fixed before our mental vision, we forget hunger, thirst, and this sansar, that is the world. The consciousness of worldly pleasure will disappear, and our mind shall attain peace and happiness. Now let us discuss about the Sudama story. When the above story was being narrated, Hemant Pant was reminded of a similar story of Sudama, which illustrates the same principle, and therefore it is given here. Sri Krishna and his elder brother Balaram were living with a co-student named Sudama in the ashram of their guru Sandipani. Once Krishna and Balaram were sent to the forest for bringing fuel. Then the wife of Sandipani sent Sudama and also for the same purpose with some quantity of grams for the three. When Krishna met Sudama in the forest, he said to him, Dada, I want water as I am thirsty. Sudama replied, no water should be drunk on an empty stomach, so it is better to rest for a while. He did not say that he had got grams with him and that Krishna should take some. As Krishna was tired, he lay down for rest on the lap of Sudama and was soon snoring. On seeing this, Sudama took out the grams and began to eat. Then Krishna suddenly asked him, Dada, what are you eating? What is this chitter-chatter sound? He replied, what is there to eat? I am shivering with cold and my teeth are chattering. I can't even repeat Vishnu Sahasranama. Hearing this, the omniscient Krishna said, I just had a dream in which I saw a man eating things of another, and when asked about this, he said, what dust should he eat, meaning thereby that he had nothing to eat. The other man said, let it be so. Dada, this is only a dream. I know that you won't eat anything without me. Under the influence of the dream, I asked you what you were eating. If Sudama had known the omniscient Sri Krishna and his Leelas, he would not have had acted as he did. Therefore, he had to suffer for what he did. Though he was a chum of Sri Krishna, he had to pass this later life in utter poverty. But when he later offered Krishna a handful of parched rice, earned by his wife with her own labor, Krishna was pleased and gave him a golden estate to enjoy. This story should be remembered by those who have the habit of eating things alone without partaking them with others. The Shruti also emphasizes this lesson and asks us to offer things first to God and then enjoy them after they are renounced by Him. Baba also had taught us the same lesson in his inimitable and humorous way. Anna Chinchalkar versus Moshibai. Hemant Pant now describes another witty incident in which Baba played a peacemaker's part. There was one devotee by name Damodar Gangasham Babre, alias Anna Chinchalkar. He was simple, rustic and straightforward. He cared for nobody and always spoke plainly and carried all things in cash. Though he looked outwardly harsh and uncompromising, he was good-natured and guideless. So Sai Baba loved him. One day, like others serving Baba in their own way, this Anna was shampooing the left arm of Baba, which rested on the katada, that is the railings, on the right side, on the old widow named Venubai Kaujalge, whom Baba called mother and all others called her Maushibai, was also serving Baba in her own way. This Maushibai was an elderly woman of very pure heart. She clasped the fingers of both her hands round the trunk of Baba and was at this time massaging Baba's abdomen. She did this so forcefully that Baba's back and abdomen became flat and Baba moved from side to side. Anna, on the other hand, was steady, but Maushibai's face moved up and down with her strokes. Once it was so happened that her face came very close to Anna's. Being on the witty disposition, she remarked, oh, this Anna is a lewd fellow. He wants to kiss me when, even being so old, with grey hairs, he feels no shame in kissing me. These words enraged Anna and he pulled up his sleeves and said, you say that I am an old bad fellow? Am I quite a fool? It is you who has picked up a quarrel with me. All the persons present there were enjoying this encounter between them. Baba, who loved both of them equally and wanted to pacify them, managed the affair very skillfully, and lovingly he said, oh Anna, why are you unnecessarily raising this hue and cry? I do not understand what harm or impropriety is there when the mother is kissed. Hearing these words of Baba, both of them were satisfied and all the persons laughed merrily and enjoyed Baba's wit to their heart's content. Now let's move to Baba's characteristics, his dependency on bhaktas. Baba allowed his devotees to serve him in their own way and did not like any other persons interfering in this. To quote an instance, the same Maushibai was on another occasion kneading Baba's abdomen. Seeing the force used by her, all other devotees felt nervous and anxious. They said, oh mother, be very considerate and moderate, otherwise you will break Baba's arteries and nerves. At this, Baba got up at once from his seat and dashed his satka on the ground. He got enraged and his eyes became red like a live embers. None dared to stand before Baba. Then he took hold of one end of the satka with both hands and pressed it in the hollow of his abdomen. The other end he fixed to the post and began to press his abdomen against it. The satka, which was about 2 or 3 feet in length, seemed all ready to go into the abdomen, and the people feared that the abdomen would be ruptured in a very short time. The post was fixed and immovable, and Baba began to go closer and closer to it and clasped the post firmly. Every moment at the rupture was expected, and they were all dismayed, did not know what to do, and stood dumb and wonder and fear. The other devotees wanted only to give a hint to the Maushibai to be moderate in her service and not cause any trouble or pain to Baba. They were surprised to see that their well intended effort had resulted in this crisis, and they could do nothing but to wait and see. Fortunately, Baba's rage soon cooled down. He left that satka and resumed his seat. From this time onwards, the devotees took the lesson that they should not meddle with anybody, but allow him to serve Baba as he chooses, as he was capable to gauge the merits and worth of the service rendered unto him. Bow to Sri Sai Baba, peace to be all.